Lectures on the Sutra of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's Original Vow. Episode 3. Please open the first page of the sutra. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was in Trayastrimsa heaven. Speak for the mother. In this passage we talked about, at one time, and the meaning of, at one time, must be supplemented a little. There are two ways to talk about time in Buddhism. One is, the moment, which Buddha said is, real time, which means reality, that is, the truth of time. Another term is, samaya, which means, long time, which is what we now call the continuity phase. The Diamond Sutra says, like dew and like lightning. Dew is water and we know that it only lasts for a very short time. It falls in the morning and evaporates when the sun comes out. Use this to represent a long time, to represent a continuous phase. Use lightning to represent real time. The real time is the instant mentioned in the chapter on 10 Samadhis of the Avatamsaka Sutra. This is the real time. However, it is difficult for us to understand the concept of the moment. With the advancement of modern science, we can gain a little more understanding by using scientific instruments for observation. In fact, the instant is what is often mentioned in the sutras as simultaneous birth and death. Because the time of birth and death is too short, it is definitely not something that our six senses can perceive. In other words, it takes a considerable amount of time for our six senses to be able to feel something. It reacts immediately to stimulation, although immediately still takes a long time. If we say that it is birth and death in an instant, we can say that we cannot feel it at all. Not only us ordinary people in the six realms, but also the heavenly beings who are much smarter and more sensitive than humans, cannot feel it, and even the Sravakas, Pratika Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas of the provisional teachings cannot feel it. The Buddha told us in the sutras that only Bodhisattvas in the 8th stage can see the alaya, and that only with a concentration as deep as that of the 8th stage can one sense the birth and death of each moment. The Buddha often describes the instantaneous birth and death as neither birth nor death in the sutras. If there is no birth and death, then saying that there is no birth and no death is nonsense. What is the point? To say that there is no birth and no death, in fact, it does have birth and death. However, it is born and dies as soon as it is born, almost at the same time, so it is called neither born nor destroyed. This makes sense, because it is born and dies at the same time, and the time is extremely short. To be honest, this kind of short duration is definitely not something that can be detected by current technology. The time that technology can detect is already very long. This is the one time that the Buddha spoke of in the scriptures. This sentence is completely true, and we must be able to understand it carefully. Once you understand this, you will understand that all dharmas are neither born nor destroyed, and you will be free from the fear of life and death. You will know that all appearances are false. The false appearance is neither born nor destroyed. This is the truth. We cannot see it, but bodhisattvas above the 8th level can see it. One time, here, if we put it into practice in terms of facts, is the time when the opportunity for Shakyamuni Buddha to preach was ripe. This is called one time. This statement is also very complete. All sutras use this wording. The Buddha said that the conditions for this sutra have matured. The circumstances this time were very special, and the place where the sutra was being preached was also very rare. The Buddha was in the Trayastrimsa heaven, not anywhere else. Buddha means the main achievement. The main speaker in this Dharma assembly is our teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The word zai is very good, especially when it comes to work. Saying yes is also telling the truth. We humans in this world have so many illusions. A wrong concept can last a lifetime without us even realizing it. Let's take some simple examples. When you wake up in the morning, do you need to wash your face? Do you think I should wash my face? Washing your face is wrong. Washing away the dirt on your face is not washing your face. Do you need to wash clothes? It's also the dust from the laundry. Think carefully about how many wrong ideas we have. When we wipe the blackboard during class, do we need to wipe the blackboard? To wipe off the chalk dust on the blackboard, it is not called erasing the blackboard. Once the blackboard is wiped, the black dust will be wiped off. That is called erasing the blackboard. If you think about it carefully, you will find that there are so many wrong ideas in our daily lives. They are so wrong, but everyone thinks they are right because they are wrong. Sometimes when Buddha tells us the truth, we all find it strange. The word in is serious, but saying you live is false. How do you live? Move here today, move there tomorrow, no matter where you live. Just say where this body is now, and that's the correct meaning. Therefore, Buddha is here. To be honest, we are in. Today we are in Singapore, now we are in the Pure Land Society, and tonight we are in the Buddhist Association. This is in. Dwelling means staying there without moving. Constantly moving is being. In Buddhism, we talk about dwelling. What does dwelling mean? The mind is at peace. The palace or pavilion you live in, the Buddha said here that the palace or pavilion is compassion. The mind abides in compassion, the mind abides in enlightenment. This is called dwelling, and never leaving is called dwelling. The body is always moving, which is called being, so from the perspective of affairs it is called being. Where is the Buddha this time? In Trayastrimsa heaven, the second heaven in the desire realm. People in the world know that there is heaven and that there are gods. They are also very respectful to them and call them God. The Chinese call him the Jade Emperor, who is probably the Lord of Trayastrimsa heaven. If he doesn't know that there is a higher heaven than the one above, then he won't know. The Buddha tells us that there are 28 layers of heaven in the Saha world, and the number of people in each layer is also infinite. From the bottom to the top, the 28 layers are divided into 3 realms: the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. The so-called desire realm means that there are still desires for food, sex, and love. These desires have not been eliminated, but they become weaker as one goes higher. When one reaches the realm of form, these desires no longer exist. We often talk about wealth, sex, fame, food, and sleep, but the people in the realm of form have none of these. The celestial beings in the realm of form do not need food or sleep and are always awake. They do not need food or sleep, but rely on the bliss of meditation for food. However, they still have physical bodies and physical appearances. The formless realm is the highest level of ordinary people in the 6 realms, and they don't even want this body anymore. Before Buddhism came to China, a man of great wisdom appeared in ancient China, Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu told people, "My greatest worry is my body." What is my biggest worry? Having this body is a burden and a trouble. If he has this realization, he may be reborn in the formless realm because he hates this body and these colors. In the formless realm, there is no form. We ordinary people often talk about the spiritual world, which is probably the formless realm. This is the most free place, without even any color. This is the great division, which is divided into 3 realms and 28 heavens. This is the scope of Shakyamuni's Buddhist teaching, and it is so vast. Did Sakyamuni Buddha have life and death? Let me tell you, no. He appears in our world in a response body. We see that he is born and dies, but in fact, after he dies, he goes to other planets and reappears in other places to teach sentient beings. This shows his great freedom. The Buddha tells us that there are many ways to describe this body. The Avatamsaka Sutra says there are 10 kinds of bodies. We usually talk about 3 kinds of bodies. If we talk about the 3 kinds in detail, there are 10 kinds, and the 10 kinds can be summarized into 3 kinds. The first, Dharmakaya, is the true body, and all bodies arise from it. Therefore, it is the most basic body that can give rise to all dharmas, can manifest our physical form, can manifest the form of the country, mountains, rivers, and earth. All physical forms are manifested by the Dharmakaya. The second type is the wisdom body, which we also call the reward body. The reward body is the body of wisdom, which means that his wisdom has been awakened and is present. He knows everything and can do everything in the universe and life. The third type is called incarnation. Actually, incarnation has 2 meanings. The response body is the body that appears in accordance with the type of people. He will appear in whatever form is needed to save people. Therefore, when the Buddha comes to the human world, or to any path, he has no obstacles. He is free and at ease. He can come and go as he pleases. Unlike us ordinary people, we ordinary people have karmic bodies, are not free at all, and are completely controlled by karma. It is difficult for everyone to understand when we say that we are controlled by karma. In other words, it is easier for everyone to understand when we say that we are controlled and dominated by fate. That is why we say everything is determined by fate and we have no control over it. How painful is that? What is life? Life is karma and the retribution of karma. If we did good deeds in the past, we will receive good rewards in this life. If we did bad deeds in the past, we will receive bad rewards in this life. Therefore, everything we enjoy in this life is like the saying goes, every sip and every bite is predestined. This is the truth and we have no control over it. However, when Buddhas and Bodhisattvas come to this world, they also reincarnate and they also experience death. Their life and death are free. This is not due to karma, but to the power of vows. In this world, he can live whatever kind of life he wants and live as many years as he wants. He has the freedom of life and death. He knows clearly when he wants to leave and where he wants to go, and he is free to come and go. This is called receiving the body through the power of vows. It is the power of vows, not karma. We must understand these principles, and then we will know how we should study Buddhism and how to transform our karma into vows. The power of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas lies here. If he can turn, we can turn too. Where should we start? You have to start from the heart. Once the heart changes, the body will change. If you start from the body but the heart doesn't change, it will be useless, and no matter how you change it, it won't turn like the body. You must start from the heart. If the mind is staying, then it is not being. In the Avadamsaka Sutra, it is said that bodhisattvas have 10 abodes, which refers to abode of the mind rather than abode of the body. Bodhisattvas abide in the same abode as Buddhas, and this is correct. The Buddha tells us in the scriptures that there are 4 types of residences, and all 4 are correct. The first 2 are still within the 6 realms and have not left them. The so-called residence in heaven means that you will definitely be reborn in the desire realm heaven in your next life. There are 6 levels of heaven in the desire realm, and we will give you a brief introduction later. Abiding in heaven means that your mind is at peace with the 10 good deeds. If you give alms, observe precepts, and practice the 10 good deeds, you will definitely be born in heaven in your next life. The blessings you receive will be much greater than those in the human world, and you will enjoy heavenly bliss. The second type is Brahmavihara. Brahmavihara is to cultivate meditation and a pure mind. All desires are weakened, and the 5 desires and 6 dusts are viewed lightly. The heart is full of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and renunciation. Compassion is to share happiness with others, to give them joy and to help them be happy. Compassion is to relieve others' suffering, to help all living beings solve their suffering. Joy is to see others gain blessings and benefits, to decide not to be jealous, but to feel happy. Renunciation is to be able to let go of all worldly concerns. If the mind always abides in compassion, joy, generosity, and generosity, one will be born in the realm of form. This dwelling is considered to be proper in the 3 realms. But we are different now. Where do people find peace of mind now? Abiding in greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance is incredible. Abiding in greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance, abiding in killing, stealing, adultery, and lying, the result will be retribution in the 3 evil paths. So he does not reside in the heaven realm or the Brahma realm, but in the ghost realm, the hell realm, or the animal realm. He is doing these things. We have a clear understanding of these principles and matters, and we need to know where to put our peace of mind and what consequences will arise in the future. It is very scary. The third kind of holy abode is abiding in Bodhicitta. There are 3 types of saints: Hinayana, Sravakas, Pratyabuddhas, and Bodhisattvas. Although the Sravakas, Pratika Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas are different, they have one thing in common, which is that their mind must reside in the 3 samadhis. This is a common point. The fourth is Buddha abode, which means abiding where the Buddha abode. If you can truly enter this realm, you are at the 10th stage of Bodhisattva. To truly study Buddhism, one must be at peace with the Buddha's abode. Where does the Buddha reside? The 3 great emptiness samadhi: emptiness, formlessness, and wishlessness. Wishlessness is also called non-action. If we put it into practice in the Pure Land school and abide in the samadhi of reciting the Buddha's name, it will be difficult for us to appreciate the profoundness and breadth of other realms. It is better for us to follow the Buddha's teachings and abide in the samadhi of reciting the Buddha's name. This is easier to learn. Chanting the Buddha's name is the cause, and becoming a Buddha is the result. This is truly incomparably rare and wonderful. This is the meaning of the 2 words, Zai and Zhu. Today, the Buddha is in Trayastrimsa heaven. What is he doing in Trayastrimsa heaven? Preaching for the mother. According to what is said in the Abhidharma Samuccaya, this Dharma assembly was initiated by Indra, the Lord of Trayastrimsa heaven. The Lord of Trayastrimsa heaven is very smart and wise. He said that all the Buddhas in the past had gone to Trayastrimsa heaven to preach to their mothers to repay their mothers for giving birth to them. Of course, the world-honored one, who had become a Buddha, was no exception. The Buddha accepted the invitation from the Lord of Trayastrimsa heaven and went to Trayastrimsa heaven to hold this Dharma assembly. This cause and effect is very profound and the story is very long. Telling the story would delay the lecture, so we will omit this story, but we cannot ignore it. In fact, the Buddha's mother, Queen Maya, was also a manifestation of great power. She was the reincarnation of Buddha and Bodhisattva. Everyone makes different vows in their causal ground. She vowed that she would be a woman in every life and would be the mother of the Buddha. She made this wish. Therefore, his son is a Buddha, and his mother has great blessings. This is all performed for us to see. The greatest blessing is to be reborn in Trayastrimsa heaven based entirely on merit, but it is not possible to be reborn in heavens above Yama. You all can look at the Buddhist rituals for the salvation of the dead, and the Liang Emperor's repentance is very special. Liang Huang refers to Emperor Wu of Liang. Emperor Wu of Liang asked Bao Zhigong to perform Buddhist rituals to help his wife attain salvation, so it is called Liang Huang Chan. When his concubine was alive, she committed evil deeds and fell into the evil path. Bao Zhigong was a highly accomplished monk. Who was Bao Zhigong? This is the incarnation of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Just look at this. Even though Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva personally presided over this ceremony and the Buddhist ritual of salvation, he could only save his concubine and send her to the Trayastrimsa heaven. You must know that the Buddhas can only bring salvation to the Trayastrimsa heaven. To go higher than that, one must have practiced cultivation. Without practice, it will not work. Therefore, we need to understand this truth and practice diligently during our lifetime. If you do not practice and rely on others to help you attain salvation, no matter how capable you are, you can only reach the Trayastrimsa heaven. If the Buddhist ritual for the salvation of the souls of the dead is presided over by an ordinary person, the effect will be very weak, and it can only be said that it is better to do nothing than to do nothing. What are the effects? It's hard to say. Where can you find truly enlightened monks or reincarnations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas today? Therefore, we must understand this principle, and then we can truly make the most of our time. Every moment counts, and we must work hard to make the most of it. Even with such a great blessing as being the mother of a Buddha, one can only be born in the Trayastrimsa heaven. To reach the realm above Trayastrimsa heaven requires concentration and a pure mind is the key to achieving true merit. The merit is little and insignificant. The desire has not been cut off, the thought of desire has not been cut off, and you will be born in the four heavens above the desire realm. Buddhism calls it not reaching concentration. You have not passed the test of concentration, but you have practiced. For example, to reach the fourth level of meditation, the meditation skill must be 100 points. The third level requires 90 points, the second level requires 80 points, and the first level requires 70 points. Your skill is below 60 points, so you have no points in the realm of desire. But you have it. Your meditation skills can be 60 points, 50 points, or 40 points. If you have this skill, it is not 0. You have not practiced at all, you only cultivate blessings, the 10 good deeds, giving, and keeping precepts, but you do not have concentration and you have not given up lustful thoughts. You will be born in the 4 heavenly kings heaven and Trayastrimsa heaven. Only if you have a little concentration and a little purity of mind can you be reborn in the Yama, Tushita, Nirma Narati, and Paranirmatava Savardhan heavens. The blessings in each layer of heaven are greater than the previous one, and the lifespans are longer than the previous one. One truly enjoys endless blessings. However, no matter how long one's lifespan is, there will come a time when one's karma will be exhausted, which means one will have to enjoy all the benefits. After enjoying all the benefits, one will have to continue to flow according to one's karma. Therefore, rebirth in heaven is not the ultimate dharma. It is always not as good as chanting the Buddha's name and being reborn in the Western paradise. Being reborn in the Western paradise will allow you to have infinite life. In other words, you will never be born or die. Not only can the desire realm heavens not be compared, but the form realm heavens and the formless realm heavens cannot be compared. Therefore, all Buddhas praise Amitabha Buddha and the Western paradise. The reason lies here. This sentence in the scripture, preaching for the mother, has a profound meaning even though this Dharma assembly was initiated by Lord Indra. The first is to avoid misunderstandings about Buddhism among some people in the world. Studying Buddhism, especially making the decision to shave one's head and become a monk, seems to mean that one will no longer care for one's parents from then on. People in the world think this is unfilial. Especially as the Chinese say, there are 3 unfilial acts, and the worst is to have no descendants. Your parents rely on you to carry on the family line, and once you become a monk, the family line will be cut off. How can you be worthy of your parents and ancestors? People in the world don't know that becoming a monk is a great form of filial piety. This is the first meaning. The second meaning is to set an example for the 4 groups of Buddhist disciples. Monks, lay people, men and women, to inspire their filial piety and let them truly experience the first sentence of the 3 blessings, respect and support your parents. Even if you become a Buddhist monk, you cannot ignore your parents. It doesn't make sense. However, there are different forms of filial piety. One should practice diligently, follow the Buddha's teachings, and dedicate the merits to one's parents. Then one's parents can be protected by the Buddhas and blessed by the good spirits. This is true filial piety. Ordinary people show filial piety to their parents by hiring a few servants to take care of their lives. Buddhist disciples let the heavenly dragons and good spirits take care of their parents, which is much more thoughtful than the person you hire. But if you don't practice cultivation yourself, the good dragons and gods will not protect you and will look down on you. If you truly practice cultivation and have virtue, the gods in heaven will naturally take care of you. You don't have to ask them for help or notify them. They will take care of you naturally. Why? Respect you and respect your parents, that's what it means. Look at the following passage. At that time, there were countless worlds in the 10 directions. It is incalculable and ineffable to describe all the Buddhas and great Bodhisattvas Mahasattvas. All came to the assembly. This passage of scripture is the introductory sequence of this sutra. This sutra has a total of 13 chapters. The first chapter is the introductory chapter, but it is not called the introductory chapter. Its title is Ksitigarbha Heaven Chapter. In fact, this chapter is the introductory part of this sutra. The meaning of the introductory section is very comprehensive. The first 6 kinds of achievements are the sequence of faith and certification. From this passage onwards, it is the sequence of initiation of this sutra. The preface tells us very clearly that it includes teaching, theory, practice, and result. This section in the annotations is the collection of praises of results and causes. We must pay special attention to places like these and know how to learn. When the Buddha preaches, he first shows everyone the results and rewards, and then we develop faith based on these results and rewards. Then I will explain to you how the result is formed and tell you the cause. You will listen carefully because you really want to know it. This is a skillful way of teaching the Dharma, and we must understand it. So he says, cause and effect, not cause and effect. What to show at the beginning? Let me teach you to look at the people attending the conference. This is the result. This is a human being, a fruit person, and it is his virtue that has moved so many people to attend the rally. Before the Buddha gave a sermon, he would show auspicious signs such as various lights. These auspicious signs are principal. When Manjushri Bodhisattva saw this phenomenon, he became doubtful, which represents action. The Buddha asked and answered the Bodhisattva. Manjushri asked and the Buddha answered him. This is teaching. So in the preface we see teaching, principle, practice, and result, and this gathering is the result and retribution. Just like the beginning of the Avadhamsaka Sutra, before the lecture begins, it first talks about the splendor of Vairocana Buddha, and then displays the results for you to see. This place presents something incredible. In which sutra have you seen such a passage? At that time, the Buddha ascended to the Ksitigarbha heaven to preach to his mother. In the innumerable worlds in the 10 directions, there are countless Buddhas. In which sutra did you see that when the Buddha was giving a sermon, all the Buddhas came to listen? Never seen it. What a scene! There is no such scene in the Avadhamsaka Sutra or the Amitabha Sutra. It is extremely rare. It cannot be viewed in a vague and general way. Usually we say, when one Buddha is born, 1,000 Buddhas support him. That means the Buddhas transform themselves into Sravakas, Pratika Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas to help the Buddha spread his teachings. This is not the case here. The Buddhas come from the Buddha's body. Today, Shakyamuni Buddha is lecturing on the Sutra of the Original Vow of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. And all the Buddhas have come to listen. The number of people is all the Buddhas in the incalculable worlds, and the great Bodhisattvas Mahasattvas. These great Bodhisattvas Mahasattvas are brought by the Buddhas, and they come along with the Buddha and follow the Buddha. The number of Buddhas is incalculable, and the number of Bodhisattvas is even greater, and they all come together. You must not read this passage of the sutra in a vague and general way. You have to think carefully about the Buddha's lifetime of 49 years, during which he gave more than 300 lectures, but none of them was as extraordinary as this one. These are the people who attend the assembly, they are the fruit. This sutra has 4 parts: teaching, theory, practice, and fruit. Why are they coming? There is no Buddha who does not repay his mother's kindness. Today, Sakyamuni Buddha is not preaching any other Dharma, but the Dharma of Ksitigarbha. This shows that all dharmas are born and arise from the earth. This is the root. What does Ksitigarbha represent? It represents filial piety and respect for teachers. Therefore, when it comes to the practice of filial piety and respect for teachers, all Buddhas must participate themselves and influence the masses. The King of Heaven of Trayastrimsa was the benefactor during this meeting, and he accumulated great merit. He invited the Buddha to the Trayastrimsa heaven to preach the Sutra of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, which was a great merit. All the Buddhas are here, without a single one missing. What an extremely rare and precious opportunity. What are you here for? Promote filial piety. As soon as you meet the Buddha, you will praise Shakyamuni Buddha, and this praise is also the most perfect. Praise Shakyamuni Buddha. Can be in the 5 turbidities and evil worlds. Display incredible wisdom and supernatural power. To tame stubborn beings. Know the law of suffering and happiness. This is not easy to say. If it were not for the Buddhas themselves saying it out loud, no bodhisattva would be able to say it. Why? How can he say that if he hasn't reached this level? In what era did Sakyamuni Buddha appear? The 5 turbidities and evil worlds. Our current society can be said to be a world of 5 turbidities and evil times, and even the most ignorant and foolish ordinary people can feel it. 50 or 100 years ago, the phenomenon of the 5 turbidities and evil times could only be felt by people with high intelligence. Ordinary people could not. The world was not bad, it was very good, and they lived happily. They did not feel the turbidity and evil. Turbidity means pollution. Half a century ago, we had never heard of any environmental protection. In other words, environmental pollution was still tolerable. By the time environmental protection was proposed, in other words, environmental pollution had become unbearable, and every local government in the world was advocating it. In other words, this term only appears when the turbidity and evil have reached a very serious state. 5 refers to 5 major categories, 5 major types of serious pollution, which are called the 5 turbidities and evil worlds in Buddhist scriptures. The first of the 5 turbidities is the Jia turbidity. Jia refers to time. It is wrong to talk about years now. We are speaking from the perspective of seasons and causes and conditions. To be honest, there is no pollution in time. This is a deeply polluted era, that's what it means. In fact, the polluted era is the last 4 types of pollution. Turbidity of views means insights. Thoughts and insights are wrong. Buddhism calls it evil knowledge and evil views. It is the pollution of views when one has a misunderstanding of the truth of the universe and life. Next, let's talk about the turbidity of afflictions, which, in our current terms, refers to the pollution of thoughts. These two together are what we call psychological pollution and spiritual pollution, which is serious. Due to psychological and spiritual pollution, it will inevitably lead to the pollution of physiology and our living environment. This is called the turbidity of all living beings. In modern terms, it refers to the pollution of our living environment. Today, the Earth's ecology has lost balance, the climate is abnormal, and disasters are frequent. All of these are due to the turbidity of all living beings. Life turbidity, in modern terms, refers to physiological pollution. The 5 turbidities are easy to understand in modern terms. The first 2 types of pollution, the pollution of views and thoughts, together constitute psychological pollution and spiritual pollution. The turbidity of sentient beings is the pollution of the living environment, and the turbidity of life is the pollution of physiological factors. This is called turbidity. Evil refers to the 10 evils, and all living beings do not do good things. The body commits killing, stealing, and adultery. The mouth commits lying, which means telling the truth and deceiving others, slandering, which means stirring up trouble. Harmful speech, which means speaking rudely, frivolous talk, which means using sweet words to deceive sentient beings, creates these verbal karmas, and the mental karmas, what are in the mind. Greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance are evil. Sakyamuni Buddha appeared in an era that was turbid and evil. Sien means to show the inconceivable great wisdom. This sentence means that the Buddha appeared in this world and showed an appearance to all living beings. What appearance was that? The look of great wisdom. We now talk about being a teacher and a role model, being a role model and example for the general public. He was able to manifest himself in this way in the 5 turbidities and evil times, and all the Buddhas praised him, praising him for setting a good example and being a good role model for these suffering beings in the evil times. The 4 words supernatural power refer to his outward manifestation, and incredible wisdom refers to his inner manifestation. Outwardly, it manifests itself in helping this society and all living beings, which shows how powerful he is. Tong means to be thorough, and there is nothing he does not know. Being omniscient and omnipotent about the principles, causes and effects, phenomena, and changes of all things in the world is called supernatural power. God is mysterious and beyond our mortal knowledge. This magical power is not referring to Sun Wukong's 72 transformations. That's not what it means. You have completely misunderstood it. The Buddha knows everything. In other words, there is nothing that the Buddha does not know about the various problems and issues in our society today. He has the ability to help us solve these problems, to tame stubborn beings. Vimalakirti once said, "The beings in Jambudvipa are stubborn and difficult to convert." Stubborn means having a strong character and firm attachments, and it is difficult for them to accept the teachings of the Buddha. We see this in real society, where people reject Buddhism, hinder the teaching of Buddhism, and show their stubbornness. He himself is unwilling to study Buddhism. What exactly is Buddhism? He doesn't know either. He labels it as superstitious, negative, and outdated and throws it aside. I don't know that this thing is a treasure that can truly solve the problems of the 5 turbidities and evil times. The last 4 words are amazing. Know the law of suffering and happiness. These 4 words are not easy to say. All living beings suffer. Why do they suffer? All living beings desire happiness, but why can't they obtain it? Who in the world is not suffering? Who doesn't want to be happy? Where does suffering come from? Where does happiness come from? Nobody knows. How can we be free from suffering? How can we be happy? No one knows these theories and methods. Shakyamuni Buddha knew, and he made it very clear in the sutras that if we want to leave suffering and obtain happiness, the Mahayana Sutras are the best guide to instruct us and lead us. The goal of Buddhist teachings is to teach us to leave suffering and obtain happiness. When the Buddhas praised Shakyamuni Buddha, they also put fruit in front to attract people's attention. If you have a pure mind and are sensitive, reading these 2 passages will make your hair stand on end. It is so rare. Who can attract all the Buddhas to attend a Dharma assembly? Who can see the Buddhas and receive such inconceivable praise? When all Buddhas praise Shakyamuni, it means that all Buddhas praise each other. We must understand this principle, that all Buddhas have the same path. In other words, only the Buddhas are willing to manifest themselves in the 5 turbidities and evil worlds. This is exactly the spirit of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. If I don't go to hell, who will? Hell is the most painful place. If I don't help these suffering beings, who will? The more miserable the place is, the greater the compassion of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will be, and the more they will go to that place to teach and help everyone. As long as these suffering beings are willing to accept it, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will come. If they are unwilling to accept it, there is no way for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to help them. If we are able to believe, understand, and learn, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will definitely appear in this world. Why are we here in Singapore today? Why not somewhere else? We are not partial, selfish, or greedy for this place. It's simply that the fate of this place has matured. What fate? The people in this place can believe, understand, and practice. This place has the 4 conditions of belief, understanding, practice, and realization. Over the past decade or so, we have been promoting Pure Land Buddhism here and encouraging everyone to chant Buddha's name and seek rebirth in the Western paradise. Over the years, we have often heard of people in Singapore and Malaysia chanting Buddha's name and seeking rebirth in the Western paradise. Mr. Lee Muyuan is very enthusiastic. When many fellow practitioners of chanting the Buddha's name are about to die, most of them ask Mr. Lee Muyuan to chant for them and help them with their funeral affairs. He has seen so many auspicious signs. Mr. Lee has made such a vow today. He has seen it with his own eyes and heard it with his own ears. Chanting the Buddha's name can lead to rebirth in the Pure Land and attain Buddhahood without regressing. This is true, not false. That's why he did it so seriously and enthusiastically. His faith and aspiration were not generated out of thin air. They were generated after he saw the facts. Only Buddha knows thoroughly, completely, and ultimately the laws of suffering and happiness in the 6 realms and 3 paths, so Buddha has the ability to help us solve our problems and help us escape suffering and obtain happiness. These 2 passages of the sutra must not be neglected, as they are the supreme and wonderful Dharma proclaimed by all Buddhas in unison. We can regard this passage as the general outline of Shakyamuni Buddha's more than 300 lectures and 49 years of preaching in the world. Why did Buddha appear in the world? Just for this. After praising, you can continue to read the scripture. Each of them sent a servant. Greetings to the Buddha. This was a courtesy, and the Buddha sent his attendants to greet Sakyamuni Buddha. Etiquette is also about setting an example for others to follow. Etiquette cannot be abolished. If a person is rude, he has no place in this world, but nowadays people have neglected etiquette. Etiquette has been neglected. To be honest, no matter how well one studies Buddhism, where will the rewards be? The retribution is not in the human world, but mostly in the ghost world. When I talk about these ghost kings later and explain the causes of the ghost kings to you, you will understand. If one practices Buddhism very well but is arrogant and lacks manners, the result will be that he will become a ghost king in the future, or, as described in the Avatamsaka Sutra, he will become the lord of the material world within the world, such as a mountain god, tree god, flower god, or water god, and he will go to these places. Buddhism is built on the foundation of filial piety. How can we persuade fellow practitioners to be enlightened, filial to our parents, and respect our teachers so that we can move towards the Buddha's path and towards the Pure Land? If one does not have this intention, one will go to the ghost realm and become a ghost king through practicing Buddhism. If you are more extraordinary, you can move towards the heavenly path. The heavenly path is the desire realm heaven. There is no distinction between the form realm heaven, you must know this. This place teaches respect, etiquette, and respect. At that time the Tathagata smiled. Release hundreds of thousands of billions of great light clouds. This place is Shenrui. The truth is revealed and light is emitted from within the cloud of light. When intelligent beings see the light, they will understand all the Buddha's teachings without the need for words. Light represents wisdom. The hundreds of thousands of billions of great light clouds are infinite wisdom, which are all displayed in an instant. It does not take a long time, and within an instant the infinite wisdom is displayed in front of everyone. That time refers to the time when all Buddhas praised Shakyamuni Buddha and sent their attendants to greet him. The Buddha smiled and emitted light to symbolize the Dharma. Where does the light come from? The Buddha's teachings to sentient beings are based on the inherent prajna light within the true nature. Where does the Buddha start when he talks about all the dharmas? It flows out from the prajna that is inherent in one's nature. Today, I will show you the basis for all dharmas. Hundreds, thousands, billions are too numerous to mention, so I will just cite a few below. It would be too numerous to list in detail, so I will just cite 10. Although this is just a brief mention, you should know that it is the same as the Dharma expressed in the Avatamsaka Sutra. Any sentence contains hundreds of thousands of billions of light clouds. One is everything, and everything is one. Therefore, when we listen to the sutras and the Dharma, if the person speaking does so with a sincere and respectful heart, it will resonate with the Buddha's light, and the Buddha's light will shine upon this temple, just like a great cloud of light shining in the sky above this temple. The speaker and the listeners below feel immeasurable joy. It is not because he speaks well or brilliantly. No, people nowadays say that the magnetic field is different. This is the blessing of Buddha, the blessing of compassion, and the acceptance of light. Don't mention the first sentence, the so-called great perfection bright cloud. Great perfection is the sum of all the different. Perfection means having not the slightest deficiency, and it is the full expression of one's innate virtues. Why do all sentient beings have spiritual connections? The hearts of all sentient beings are no different from the Buddha's heart. What's the difference? All beings are in delusion, while Buddha is enlightened. What is aware is the nature of the mind, and what is confused is also the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind has neither awareness nor confusion. Among all living beings, the sentient beings we often talk about are animals, the sentient beings in the 9 realms of existence. In addition to sentient beings, there are also insentient beings. The plants and minerals we are talking about today are all manifestations from the self-nature. The Avatamsaka Sutra says, the sentient and the insentient share the same perfect wisdom. Perfect means complete, and sharing the same perfect wisdom means becoming Buddhas at the same time. That's what it means. Why? The same Dharmakaya, the same nature. For an enlightened person, the mountains, rivers, and earth are all himself and are one with himself, so he shows unconditional care and love. This is called great compassion. Therefore, the second sentence is the cloud of great compassion and light. We must understand that Buddha is like this, and so are we. What the Buddha is revealing today is the inconceivable, infinite and boundless light of his own nature. What we are revealing today is also the infinite and boundless ignorance and afflictions. The way we are doing is completely contrary to our nature, and we have become pitiful beings. Therefore, you must be awakened, truly awakened, turn back, uphold, recite, and follow the teachings. Only then will you truly turn back. This turning back has a resonance with the Buddha's great light cloud. The second one is the cloud of great compassion and light. Compassion is what we rely on in our aspirations. The four great vows, I vow to save all sentient beings without limit. What is the basis for this motivation? Based on compassion. The three words, bright cloud, here represent the perfect virtue and power of the true heart and nature, and the inherent wisdom of prajna. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This Bodhisattva refers to the Dharmakaya Bodhisattvas, who have not attained the Dharmakaya. Their inherent virtues are not revealed, and they do not have the light cloud. Although they have great compassion, they cannot add the light cloud. Jia Guangming said that he is at least a Dharmakaya Bodhisattva, who has broken one level of ignorance and realized one part of the Dharmakaya. He truly has the same heart, wish, virtue and practice as the Buddha. This is fully revealed in this passage. This is the actual situation. The four great vows originated from here. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's vow is perfect and ultimate. I will not attain Buddhahood until hell is empty, and his compassion reaches the extreme. He will save all the suffering beings in hell, let alone others. This is called saving all beings in the 9 realms. There was a very long gap between the passing of Sakyamuni Buddha and the birth of Maitreya Bodhisattva. We cannot imagine the suffering of sentient beings as no Buddha was born for such a long period of time. Don't Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have compassion? Have. What to do? During this period, the Buddha completely entrusted the task of educating sentient beings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. When the Buddha was not in the world, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was the representative of Shakyamuni Buddha. The Buddha did not entrust this matter to any other Bodhisattva, but entrusted it to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. From this we can know, after the Buddha's nirvana and before Maitreya is born, what method will be used to teach all sentient beings. The Sutra of the original vow of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is the instruction of the Buddha. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was entrusted by the world-honored one, and in order to live up to Shakyamuni Buddha's promise, he truly took on this responsibility himself, showing his extreme compassion. We must use the great cloud of compassion and light to initiate the bodhicitta of seeking the truth and saving others, and saving ourselves and all sentient beings. The third sentence, the cloud of great wisdom and light. This is what our practice is based on. No matter which method you practice, you cannot achieve success without wisdom. You must rely on wisdom. Where does wisdom come from? Let me tell you, wisdom is definitely not a matter of memorizing and asking questions. I have listened and read a lot, and I remember a lot. That is worldly wisdom. The Buddhist scriptures talk about worldly wisdom and intelligence. Worldly wisdom and eloquence is one of the 8 difficulties in Buddhism. You are in trouble. Why? If you fall into the obstruction of knowledge, what you know becomes an obstacle, hindering you from realizing your true nature, hindering you from gaining concentration, and hindering you from gaining wisdom. Where does wisdom come from? Wisdom must come from meditation. Where does meditation come from? Samadhi must be obtained through observing the precepts, which is called the 3 indestructible studies. Although the Mahayana method does not attach importance to formal precepts, the Mahayana method emphasizes the precepts of the mind, which are more special than the formal ones and must be truly practiced. Meditation is a pure mind. The 6 senses face the 6 external realms of dust. Do not be attached to the outside, and do not be moved by the inside. This is called meditation. This is the true practice of meditation. When our 6 senses come into contact with the 6 realms of dust, we will be seduced by the external realms and have thoughts and ideas. That's it. Where can we practice real Kung Fu and real cultivation? It means to practice when the 6 senses come into contact with the 6 dust realms. We use the practice of chanting Buddha's name. This method is good. As soon as the thought arises, Amitabha, it changes and becomes Amitabha. In this, the 3 studies of precepts, concentration, and wisdom are simultaneously complete. If you are able to change, you are abiding by the law, and this is called keeping the precepts. When you see the outside world and become greedy for what you like, your greed will be aroused, Amitabha, and then you say, Amitabha, and it will turn around. This is keeping the precepts. When you see an unsatisfactory environment and feel unhappy, just say Amitabha and that will turn around. If you can turn around and accept the Buddha's teachings, and if you do what the Buddha teaches us to do, then we should do it. This is called keeping the precepts. After turning around, you no longer pay attention to any state of mind and focus on chanting the Buddha's name. This is the practice of concentration. Chant the name of Amitabha Buddha with all your heart, and wisdom is therein. Therefore, they do not know the greatness of Pure Land practice. The 3 studies of precepts, concentration, and wisdom can be completed in a single thought and are complete. Then, when you deal with things and people, kindness will naturally arise. Therefore, there is no concealment of the depth of your cultivation skills. It is revealed in your face, your voice, and your every move. How can the power of your cultivation be hidden? The same inside and out. Embellishment and concealment are for fools in the world. Foolish people cannot see through you and will be deceived by you. Truly wise people cannot hide it and will understand it as soon as they come into contact with you. Therefore, great wisdom is what we rely on in our practice. 4th sentence, the great prajna light cloud. Prajna and wisdom sometimes have the same meaning, but when they are mentioned together, of course there is a difference in meaning. Prajna is as stated in the Prajna Sutra, prajna of reality, prajna of observation, and prajna of words. The great wisdom mentioned above can be interpreted as the wisdom of precepts, concentration, and intelligence. Wisdom must include precepts and concentration. Precepts do not necessarily exist with concentration or wisdom, but concentration must exist with precepts. Concentration and precepts are common to all people. People with concentration will not make mistakes. A wise person is called a follower of the precepts of the Tao, and his observance of the precepts is even more advanced. So, wisdom is like a 3-story building. The 3rd floor must include the 2 floors below, and the lower floor does not include the floors above. Precepts do not include concentration, and concentration does not include wisdom. Concentration must include precepts, and wisdom must include both precepts and concentration. The prajna here refers to the Prajna Sutra, which states that the prajna of reality is the essence. The true reality has no form, which is the wisdom without discrimination. The true wisdom is clear and understands all dharmas, but there is no discrimination within. There is no separation, so how can there be attachment? Therefore it is called prajna of reality. Reality is the truth. He understands the truth. We say that he thoroughly understands the truth of the universe and life. This kind of wisdom is called prajna of reality. When it works, it has 2 effects. One is self-benefit, and the other is other benefit. Self-enjoyment is the contemplation of prajna. In modern terms, contemplation of prajna means living a life of high wisdom, or like the Dharmakaya Bodhisattvas at the fruition stage, they live a life of perfect wisdom, in accordance with the cloud of light. It is very rare for us ordinary people to live a life with high wisdom, and only then can we understand observation. Regarding the general principle of contemplation, the Buddha told us in the Diamond Sutra, all appearances are false. Therefore, he is able to not differentiate or cling to all dharmas, and to go with the flow without seeking connections. Everything is good and everything is at ease. Every day of his life is pure and full of happiness. Be content with whatever happens. The rich have their own happiness, and the poor have their own happiness. Wealth and poverty are just phenomena. Happiness is equal and equal. Everyone can live a fulfilling and happy life. This is the benefit of observing prajna for oneself. Written prajna is altruistic, it benefits others and helps them. Texts include speech. In other words, contemplation includes phenomena, which means showing others how to do things. Today we are talking about teaching by example. Textual prajna is teaching by words. From this we can see that real prajna is teaching by meaning. Body, speech and mind are all for educating all sentient beings and for helping all sentient beings. However, although the true reality is a teaching of the mind, there is no thought of a mind. If there is a thought of a mind, it is not the true prajna wisdom. Prajna means being both present and apart from form, and being both present and apart at the same time. This is the only way to dispel all confusion. 5th sentence, the great samadhi-like cloud. Samadhi is a Sanskrit word, which is a transliteration of Indian language. It means right enjoyment or normal enjoyment. The Buddha tells us that the various enjoyments of sentient beings in the 6 realms are abnormal. All kinds of enjoyment can be summarized into 5 major categories, and the body can be divided into 2 categories: painful feeling and pleasant feeling. Suffering is infinite and boundless, and happiness is also infinite and boundless. These 2 major categories cover it all. Psychology, we talk about spirit. The physical part has 2 categories, pain and pleasure. The psychological part has sorrow and joy. These 2 categories make up the 4 major categories. There is another large category, where the body has no pain or pleasure, and the mind has no sorrow or joy. This is very good. This condition is called detachment. There are 5 large categories in total. The feeling of renunciation is very good, but it only lasts for a short time. It is not long. The body is temporarily free from suffering and happiness, and the mind is temporarily free from sorrow and joy. If this feeling of detachment can be maintained, it is called samadhi, which means right feeling, so samadhi is also translated as meditation. All Buddhas always maintain a state of detachment, so suffering and happiness are relative, and sorrow and joy are also relative. The West calls it the Pure Land. We often define this happiness in the West with our own wrong ideas, thinking that this happiness in the West is a mixture of suffering and happiness. This is wrong. It is not the joy of suffering and happiness. When you give up both suffering and happiness, that is true happiness. Therefore, when you arrive in the Western Pure Land, the 5 kinds of feelings, namely, suffering, happiness, sorrow, joy, and detachment, are all gone. That is what is called the Pure Land. We need to understand this meaning. Great samadhi can break all obstacles. Our modern scientists know that there are many obstacles in this world. For example, they discovered 3-dimensional space. We are now living in 3-dimensional space, and we know that there are 4-dimensional space and 5-dimensional space. Mr. Huang Nianzhu said that he saw scientific reports and that scientists have confirmed that at least 11 dimensions exist. If according to Buddhism there is more to it, how do we know? We know how these different spaces came about, and we understand this principle. The Buddha said that these different spaces are manifested by delusion, discrimination, and attachment. We know that all sentient beings have infinite delusion, discrimination, and attachment, so time and space also have infinite degrees. There is no way there are only 10 or 20 degrees. This is true, not false. Even in 3-dimensional space, the environment we live in now still has many obstacles. Talking about the 3 degrees and the 4 degrees is a big deal, just like the 10 realms of existence discussed in Buddhism. If we say that each Dharma realm is a degree, that is 10 degrees, and adding the one true Dharma realm, that is 11 degrees, but each realm has many, many more, which are countless. If you can attain samadhi and stay in samadhi, all delusions, discriminations, and attachments will be cut off, and all boundaries will be broken through. The depth of meditation skills varies. A low level of meditation can break through 1 or 2 levels, while a high level of meditation can break through even more levels. We know this situation very well. There are some people in the world who practice meditation. An old gentleman told me this during World War II. During the war, there was a Taoist priest in Jiangxi who had supernatural powers and was very good at meditation. The place where he lived was relatively low-lying, so the Taoist priest asked him to move, saying that the place would be flooded in a few days. The Taoist priest also lived nearby, so he sent someone to see if the Taoist priest had moved. The Taoist moved, and then he moved too. Sure enough, it was correct, it matched the time he said. There was no sign of it at all, but a flash flood really occurred and the place was flooded, so he knew that the Taoist priest had supernatural powers. Not long after, the Taoist told him that he saw a war breaking out in a certain place, and told him the direction and the approximate distance. He saw it. This old gentleman was a soldier, a senior officer. He said that what the Taoists said was wrong, he had never heard of it, and there was no such news. 3 months later, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. He had seen the direction, situation, and distance that they told him 3 months in advance. It can be seen that the past, present and future exist simultaneously. He has a small concentration, not a big concentration. He can break through the 3-month period and see what will happen 3 months later. He is in his little house deep in the mountains, and he can see Pearl Harbor in Hawaii thousands of miles away. This is Shao Ding. The Bible code, currently circulating on the market, allows him to see what will happen 3,000 years into the future. His concentration is much better than that of the Taoist priest. This Taoist priest can only see the environment of a few months, years, and thousands of miles, which is such a realm. Samadhi is inconceivable and can break through all obstacles. The Tathagata has completely cut off all delusion, discrimination, and attachment, so his abilities are perfect and pervade the entire universe and the Dharma realm. He is omniscient and omnipotent. We understand this principle, and then we believe what the Buddha says. What he says is true, not false, and he does have this ability. He has this ability, and so do we. We have lost this ability today because we lack concentration. Our minds are filled with a lot of delusions, discriminations, and attachments every day. We suffer the loss because of this. We must be aware and understand this. Good. That's all we'll leave for today.